How's he gonna pay for all of this?
I have 20,000 Republic dactaries.
Republic credits? Republic credits are no good out here. I need something more real.
I don't have anything else, but credits will do fine.
No, they won't.
Credits will do fine.
No, they won't. What, you think you're some kind of Jedi waving your hand around like that? I'm a Toydarian. My tricks don't work on me. Only money. No money, no parts, no deal.
Welcome, Masters and Padawans, to episode 593 of Full of Sith. It's me, Bryan Young, your host of the show today. Got something special for you from my personal archives. Holly is out this week for some special adventures that she's off, and I am swamped at work, so I figured I'd pull something really cool out of my personal archives for you. I have this week an interview I did with Andy Secombe for some Star Wars Insider and some sci-fi channel work I did for looking back on his work voicing Watto in the prequels for Phantom Menace and for Attack of the Clones. And just thought you'd all like to give that a listen. So without further ado, here is Andy Secombe and myself talking about, Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones.
Thank you for agreeing to talk to me. I know it's been a little while since we've been trying to organize this, but I'm really delighted that you were able to make some time to speak with me. So I'd like to start just by asking you, you were working doing animation production for Channel 4 when the call for Phantom Menace came in, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm curious, what was that call like, and how did you get over to the production offices to start auditioning that?
Because there's this sort of book of all the production companies in London, and because we were a very small scale animation company, we were in it, and when Lucasfilm came into town, they picked this book up and they looked through. Basically, they were looking for voice artists to fill all the roles that they were casting. And they'd gone through the book, and they got to us, and I happened to pick up the phone, and a woman said to me, "Hello, are you? Who would you recommend as your best voice artists?" And I said, "Me." So she said, "Oh, right, okay. Well, would you like to come along and audition?" I said, "What's it for?" And she said, "Star Wars." And after I'd picked the phone up again, I said, yes, when would you like to see me? Well, we're here all week. How about tomorrow? Yes, okay. So the next day I turned up to, it was Leavesden Studios, North London. And they showed me some line drawings of the character of Watto, and Robin, the casting director, said, I said, well, what's he like? And Robin said, well, George doesn't really know, but he thinks he's probably he's got some, maybe he might have mafia connections in the past. He's a bit dodgy. He's a wheeler dealer. He makes deals. He's a gambler. He sort of plays dirty, but he's really got a heart.
I
So-
missed that last. You said he had a heart of what, and then the
Sorry.
connection.
A sort of a heart of gold, sort of
Okay.
deep down, even though he's a slave owner. And I thought, oh, okay, this is interesting. And so she put me in the studio and said, and gave me a script and said, off you go. And I tried a few things, and then I thought, well, they weren't working. And I thought, well, if he's a bit dodgy, he looks like he might have a sort of gravelly voice, and mafia connections, so maybe there's a bit of Italian in there. So I sort of came up with, hey, what are you doing? How are you do? All that kind of stuff, and which they seem to like. And then I also auditioned for who else? I think I auditioned for Jar Jar Binks and a few other characters as well. But Watto was the one I got. Then a few days later, they phoned up again and said, yeah, we'd like to sort of provisionally offer you this part, but we're not doing anything yet. Do you want to come through? Want to come along for the read through? So I did, and it was great. There they all were. There was Liam and George. Yep.
When was this, would you say?
Oh, God. This was, I think it was sort of April 2000 and... no, hang on. No, 1996 it must have been. Or 1997? I can't remember. It was around the birth of my first child. No, he was a year old, so it must have been 1997.
Okay.
Because the film came out in 1999, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
Tell me about that first read through, though.
I sort of, none of us had seen the script, so the script was sort of plonked. Well, Liam Neeson had probably seen the script, but I certainly hadn't. And it was plonked in front of me, and George said, "Well, okay, so play Watto. Can you also read in these other parts for people who weren't there?" I read for I can't remember a few bits and pieces, and I was sort of trying silly voices here and there, and and nobody else was. And I think it made George laugh. I was attempting to do sort of all the different voices for all the different characters, and then after the read through, I found out almost straight away I'd got the job.
So they asked you to come in and do the read through without even officially asking you to do the job.
Yeah. You don't say no to George Lucas.
Yeah. What was your impression of the movie there in that first read through? Like, what was your sense of what the movie was going to be like?
Oh, I had no sense of what the movie was going to be like. I was too nervous, and sort of in awe of the whole process. Really, all I knew was that it was a Star Wars movie, which I was very excited about. And so I didn't really have that much of a clue of what it was all about. When later on, obviously, when I read it again after the read through, I started thinking, oh yeah, okay, well, it's very odd when because so much of it is well, it's a film, it's visual. It's very hard to tell unless you're used to reading film scripts. I don't get sent that many film scripts. How it's going to work out. So I find it very difficult to visualize what was in George's mind about certain sequences. For instance, like the pod race. It basically just said pod race, which could have meant anything at all. I had no idea what that was going to be. And in the end, I mean, that was one of the I thought one of the sort of highlights of the film. It was very exciting there. Yeah, so at the read through, no, very little idea of what the film was going to end up as.
As you what was the process for getting into character and being on set? Because you were on set acting with Liam Neeson, right?
Yeah. Well, that was it was fun. Well, I was obviously I was the only character not in costume, so I was sort of there was somebody going right at we had a lovely lady coming around with sort of snacks and things in between sort of filming breaks, and because I was because I was out of character, she kept moving. She thought I was a hanger-on, just trying to sort of grab some free food. One of the things that that George made me do, because I was sort of dressed in, it was the summer, it was the middle of the summer, it was very hot, and so I was in shorts and a t-shirt. Everyone else was sort of dressed up to the nines with Jedi Knights and sort of people painted blue and God knows what. But so because I wasn't in costume, George made me wear a silly hat, which was a sort of it looked like a grey lampshade, and it had a metal rim around it, and it stuck out about a good 6 inches in front of my head. And this was to let the animators know which one of these characters was Watto, was the one they were supposed to, CGI over. So I had to wear this silly thing, and as I say, it stuck out rather a long way, all the way around. And on the first day of shooting, I had a scene with Liam. I think it was the very first. It was the very first scene on the very first day of shooting. I had a scene with Liam before the pod race, in the pod race hangar, and I had a line something like, it was after the chance cube toss and all that stuff when when Liam does his waving his hands around and doing all the Jedi mind tricks and all that stuff. And I had this. He wins the bet. He wins some bet. I'm sorry, it's a very long time ago, and I can't remember exactly what the bet was.
It was for Anakin or his pod.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yes, that's right. Yes, you're absolutely right. That's it. And I had to say to him, you may have won this small toss, Outlander, but you will not win the race. And I had to say, you will not win the race straight in his face. And because Liam's very tall and I'm very short, I was on a flight case. So I was level with him. And I spat this line in his face, and I hit him on the bridge of the nose with the rim of this hat, quite hard. And he went, oh! and doubled over in pain. I thought, oh my God, I've broken the leading actor's nose on the first day of shooting. This is really not good. And everybody, all the crew, all the cast and crews, oh. And there was this sort of frozen silence for about 5 seconds until Liam said, it's okay, I'm okay, I'm fine. And he had a little gash on the bridge of his nose, which makeup came in and had to deal with. And I was on the floor. I was so, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm so terribly sorry. And I said to George, George, this hat's very dangerous. Can I sort of take it off? Maybe not wear it for the close-ups. So he let me take the hat off for all the close-up work, but not for all the other shots.
What sort of indication did they give you about the look of the character, about how he would move or occupy the space as you were on set?
There was a maquette. There was a mock-up of Watto on a stick, which they used to follow me around with. So I had a fairly good idea of how he looked three-dimensionally. Up until the first day of shooting, I'd only seen drawings. And yeah, I mean, the more, you know, he had stubble. He looked a bit rough. He looked like he sort of hadn't slept for a while, and sort of obviously sort of late nights, and maybe liked to drink. You know, he looked rough. So that kind of fed into my characterization of him a bit, kind of, you know. "Ugh." So it's sort of a bear with a hangover, you know. And how he moved. Well, that was tricky because he flies. I mean, he flaps around and flies. And I may be an actor of many parts, but I can't fly. So that was a bit of a drawback. So I sort of thought, well, maybe I should sort of have him sort of a dancing sort of gait. And George said, "What are you doing?" I explained to him. He said, "Don't do that." He said, "We'll do that. Don't worry about that." So yeah, I mean, I plodded. I suppose he's very kind of downbeat and sort of low and sort of ploddy. That's how he felt to me. So I plodded heavily around the set.
When what was it like for you seeing him animated for the first time to your voice? And did they use your voice from the set, or did you have to go back and do an EAR or some combination of the two?
They recorded it on set. They recorded my voice on set. I was mic'd up all the time. Yeah, they recorded everything. I had to go back and do a bit of ADR after, just for lip syncing. I mean, the very close-ups and lip syncing moments. They put a camera on me in the booth and record my lip movements and my eye movements and sort of facial expressions, because it was before the days of motion capture. And then they would use that as a guide to how he spoke and how his mouth worked. Yeah, was there another part to that question?
Just what was it like seeing that animated for the
It was
first
like
time?
yeah, no, it was astonishing. It was absolutely astonishing. I couldn't, because he looked so real. That was what I couldn't get out. The textures. It's an odd thing though. I mean, I've done animation voicing before, and you always kind of, when you watch it back, you think, well, you know, I could have done that voice better, or you know, that could have been better, or you know, you're sort of very, very critical of your performance mostly. But in this case, it didn't feel like me. It felt like someone else had sort of taken over and done it. So it didn't feel like watching me. It was a strangely sort of out of body experience, I suppose. You know, I knew logically I'd have a hand in sort of doing it, but it sort of, it had taken on a life of its own.
And I mean, I guess that's sort of the whole Star Wars phenomenon, right? Like everything took a life of its own. What, I mean, did you ever expect as you were doing it that people would be trying to ring you up 20 years later asking about it?
No idea at all. I mean, you know, I know Star Wars is big. I knew then Star Wars is big. And I was a fan, but I had no idea I'd still be 20 years after the fact, still be getting interviews from nice people like you, and also being asked to go to conventions. And you know, it's been a wonderful experience because it's enabled me to travel all over the world. I get invited to fan conferences. I went to Japan. I've been to Japan. I've been to America loads of times. I've been all over Europe. It's been great. It's been absolutely great fun. the fans are all just they're all just terrific. You know, really, really, really nice. Very interested, very well versed in Star Wars lore, much better than me because I don't have a clue. But it's been it's been an absolutely wonderful experience to be part of it all. But I had no idea really of the size of it when I was back in those days.
Phantom Menace sort of it's taken a while for, I think there was some backlash initially, both against the movie and Watto and Jar Jar specifically. But over those 20 years, that softened a lot. I'm wondering how that experience has evolved for you as being one of the performers behind that.
Yeah, I mean, when the movie first came out, I never paid much attention to critics and all the rest of it. Maybe I should have done. So I didn't really know the controversy that was going on. If I had, I would have spoken up about it sooner because it was never meant to be. Watto was never anti-Semitic. I mean, for a start, he hasn't got a Hebrew or sort of Yiddish accent. It's Italian, and a lot of people accuse me of doing an impersonation of Alec Guinness's Shylock, which is total nonsense. And I only sort of came across those arguments much later on. I think I've corrected that misconception now. And yes, in the years since, nobody has brought that up again. And a lot of people come to me and say, "Oh, Watto is my favourite character in Phantom Menace." I think poor old Ahmed Best had it worse with Jar Jar Binks because he got so much flack leveled against him. You know, but all the sort of being a kind of sort of step and fetch it and sort of playing into all those kind of racial stereotypes. I mean, when that was never really that was never the aim. I mean, you know, no one would set out to be racist. That would be, especially not in Hollywood. That'd be insane. It just kind of it was all just, I think, maybe a bit of innocence on everyone's part, and you know, and sort of all Ahmed was doing was actually saying what the lines on the page. He wasn't trying to sort of, you know, do some sort of wide-eyed kind of, you know, racial stereotype performance. So I think it's very unfair. I mean, and because he's a lovely guy. He's a really, really lovely guy. We got on very well, and the crew loved him. So it was a great shame that Jar Jar got quite so much flack from so many quarters.
I mean, have you heard more recently, like at Star Wars Celebration? I mean, Ahmed came out on stage and got a standing ovation from a stadium full of people, and that it seems like. And I'm wondering if you ever got any sense of this from George, but in a lot of the interviews I've done for this piece, George sort of said, "Hey, the people who are watching it right now probably aren't going to like it, but the kids are going to love everything about this, and 20 years from now, you're going to be huge."
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think that's absolutely right. A lot of families come up to me with Watto toys, excuse me, to sign at things like sort of, you know, the conventions and celebrations, and it's whole families. It's from, you know, sort of big grown-up daddy to little baby, and they're all fans, and it's usually, you know, there's usually there's one person who's sort of started off as a rabid Star Wars fan, and it's spread throughout the family. but yeah, the kids have sort of taken it over, and yes, now I think the generation that I'm mostly meeting have no knowledge of that the initial sort of controversy and all that stuff, all that sort of intellectualizing about it that happened when the film first came out, and they just think the characters are funny, or sweet, or cute, which is really nice, really refreshing, and sort of life affirming, really.
I want to ask about the difference in process between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. Was there much of a difference for you? Like, how different was that experience?
It was very different, because in Phantom Menace, I was there from the very beginning, and I was involved in the production. We had, I think it was 9 weeks at Leavesden, and then we had another 3-4 weeks in Tunisia in the desert. So I was very, very much involved with that. But for Attack of the Clones, I had one scene, and they flew me in. They flew me in the morning, and they flew me out in the evening. That was it. I had one day in the Tunisian desert. So very, very different. Very different, feel to the script as well. As far as Watto was concerned, I mean, he was older and wiser, and I thought a little bit more gentle. He sort of, he lost everything, and he was kind of just trying to scrape a living. He was no longer the kind of big, bluff, successful guy he had been. So I just played him a little bit more downbeat, and that was really my only contribution to his character in that film. George never really discusses character very much. He's kind of very much leaves you up to your own devices. If he doesn't like something, he'll say, but he won't ever suggest anything. He thinks it's the actor's job to come up with it. And also he believes that sort of 90% of it is casting. And if he's cast the right people, then they're going to do the job that he wants them to do.
It's interesting in that scene, for my money, that moment of realization that Watto has, that this is actually, little Annie, is one of the best bits of acting, both in the marriage of voice and animation, that they pulled off in any of those Star Wars movies. It's just a really beautiful piece of work, and I'm wondering if you could talk maybe specifically about that moment.
Yeah, just before that happens, I don't know if it survived into the film, but there was a bit of dialogue I had with Christian that was all supposed to be in Huttese, and the night they always do last minute rewrites in these things, and the last night I got the sides shoved under my door. The night before, I got the sides shoved under my door in the hotel, and the scene was all in English, and it was too late to do anything about it. And so that morning on set, I said to George, I think this scene's supposed to be in Huttese. And he looked at it, he said, yes, it is. And it was in English. And so I said, well, what did we do? He said, well, how much Huttese do you remember from the first film? I said, some. He said, okay, well, let's knock something around. So me and George were standing in the heat of the Tunisian sun, while everyone else, hundreds of extras, cast and crew, were all standing around waiting, rewriting the scene in Huttese, which was great fun, because I can actually say I collaborated with George Lucas on a film scene. So we hurriedly wrote something together, and then shot it. And you shoot it from, in a film, you shoot it from various angles. You do the reverses and all the rest of it. And there was one, the scene, the bit where I actually sort of stand up to say, Annie, is it really you? We shot that so many different times, and because of sight lines and all and various sort of camera angles, we done it so many different ways. I completely lost track of where we were. So at one point, I stood up right in front of the canvas. It was Christian's shot. It was Hayden's shot, and I stood up in front of the camera. And when they were supposed to be on Hayden, cut. George said, Andy, what do you do? I said, I'm sorry, I got terribly carried away with the emotion of the scene, and I wanted to give him a hug. Said, oh, great, we'll keep that sort of. So I sort of tried to keep that feeling in what I did, as if that sort of the recognition of somebody from a part of his life that he obviously when he was on top, and a sunshine part of his life, and also a boy that he'd really valued and get on with. So I'm very glad if you feel that sort of emotion came through in the scene eventually.
Oh, very much so. And I mean, you went on to take Watto through various video games and Lego movies and stuff. Like, did you expect on Phantom Menace that you would be doing Watto as often as you do?
No, I had no idea. But yeah, no, Watto always. I've just come back home from being on a theatrical tour in England, and I used to get people waiting for me at the stage door, not with the programs of the play I'd just been in, but with Watto, with Lego Star Wars games, all the things I voiced, waiting for me to sign. So I don't think it'll ever leave me now.
Is that you read about Alec Guinness maybe not appreciating that with Obi-Wan Kenobi, but it seems as though something you very much embraced.
Yeah, well, I mean, at first I found it sort of slightly intrusive and slightly strange, because I was a very minor character in both movies, but the fans are so lovely and so appreciative. It's very, it's. I'd be very stupid to actually or rude. I mean, I don't appear rude to anybody. And it's great if someone tells you that your character is their favorite character of the whole Star Wars canon. What are you going to do? Bugger off. I don't want to know anything about you. No, it's really nice. It's very heartwarming.
Is there anything about Watto, and this is wrapping up here, is there anything about Watto that maybe people don't know or haven't heard, either in your exploration of the character or something from behind the scenes? Like, is there anything about him you can tell us that might be new?
He's always had a secret passion for Christina Aguilera.
Okay.
That's something that didn't come out in the film.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
No, I don't think so. I'm sorry, but it was a very long time ago now, and I've done so much since that. Sort of the processes that went into creating Watto are a little hazy to me now. No, I mean the things that I sort of still basically remember about sort of creating the character are the fact that I wanted to make him as rough as possible, as rough and as lovable as possible. Really, those are the two things that really drove my idea of his characterization.
Is that? I mean, that's got to be an interesting challenge to say. I'm going to make this slaver lovable.
Well, yeah, but you see, it's the way that most actors approach a character, even a bad character. You have to find something likable about the character to play them. You can't play an out and out evil person. You just can't, because nobody is. You know, you'd end up with a very two-dimensional portrayal. So you have to find something that's engaging about the character in there, and I did. I found Watto's humor very engaging, so I went with that.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me about this. Watto's definitely just that I'll show you this. This is I've kind of got a rotating cast of Lego keychains, and I just happen to have Watto on me today.
I'm very touched. Thank you.
But thank you for taking the time to talk to me, and thank you for your work in Star Wars.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for all of your work, but Star Wars in particular.
Thanks very much. Nice to talk to you.
Likewise.
Yeah, just some really great stories there. I really love talking to folks like this, especially when you don't hear from folks like that often. And I love the idea that he was just like running the agency and going like, no, I'm going to go do this. Me. That's just the sort of thing that Star Wars brings out in people. I can't blame him at all. So we'll be back next week with Full of Sith. If you're looking for me, I will be this week. I've got some events this week. If you happen to be in Utah, I'll be doing a signing at the Queen's Realm in Roy, Utah, on Saturday, July 5th, and then July 11th and 12th, I'll be in Portland, Oregon. So I'm going to be there doing signings at some game stores. If you want to find out some more information, find me on Blue Sky at Swankmatron. I'd love to meet up with you. And then the week after that, Holly and I will be at Atlanta Comic-Con doing a live Full of Sith and a live Fothentic History. We'd love to see you there. We're going to be doing a ton of Star Wars panels too. So be sure to watch out for us live. I guess from here on out, I'm doing live appearances every weekend. So look out for us. And then, so be sure to check that out. So Swankmatron is where you can find me on Blue Sky and swankmatron.com. As far as Full of Sith goes, you can go to fullofsith.com, listen to the entire back catalog of episodes. Please do that. We've got well over 600, almost 700 releases there on the site, and would love for you to go back and listen to them. I love getting emails from folks that have gone through the entire catalog of episodes, going, looking back 13, almost 14 years ago, going like, man, the stuff we didn't know about Star Wars then is kind of hilarious to listen to, or what we thought about how things were going to go. There's so much that's come out in that whole time. It's like a time capsule. Go ahead and listen to those. And then be sure to rate and review the show wherever it is you listen to it, and be sure to tell your friends about it. So for super producer Mike Pilot, and for Holly Fry, who couldn't be here this week, I'm Bryan Young, and the Force will be with you always.
Sir, if you'll not be needing me, I'll close down for a while.